Hey there, folks. Going to finish up the week here with the market internal review. We're going to review Wednesday through today, Friday, December 1st, 2023. So, I got a couple adjustments here on my indicators, MIT, the top holdings indicator that I spoke of on the last video, as well as the candles all in one, market internal candles all in one indicator. Just kind of got my theme all centralized here. Makes it look a little less like Christmas. So, heading into this week, on the video I did over the weekend, I had mentioned that we're seeing some pretty immense strength given the growth stocks. This has kind of been our RSI. However, as I mentioned, last month, maybe September, that would have been October timeframe. Good grief, November. That it all felt pretty different with this run up here. Really started to find momentum in the markets, hearing certain things from data releases and economic news. And sure enough, we headed all the way up here to this small gap range that I found on the SPY daily chart. And I said on the last weekend video, Monday, that we're probably just going to go ahead and continue to go up at this point. It's kind of counterintuitive, I think, to what a lot of the market probably thinks, given this massive surge that we've seen. But sometimes, that's why this RSI, a lot of times, I think is used incorrectly, is that over 50 RSI can be a very strong trend indication, and even over the typical quote unquote overbought area can just be a strong continuation signal, especially sometimes on the higher time frames. Not always, but in this case, we're seeing growth still continue to push. We hit a small pullback there on Wednesday. And if we go look here, okay, so we started out this week from Monday on a shortened Friday session. It gave us a really tight range. Tuesday, though, we had a nice breakout of that tight range, giving us some expansion here. We see on the VOLD and the ADD, the volume and price of New York Stock Exchange, we're really starting to see some more bullishness pick up. We are struggling around that first standard deviation range from Monday. That's what this purple area is here, pink area, depending on who you ask. And overall, though, it's an inside day, so we built pretty good volume up here. I'm sure we built up a lot of tick right around here. You can see we had two big tick peaks, one right around here on that 455, and one down here around that 453, 454 area. So then that brings us into Wednesday, and unsurprisingly, we kind of have a gap up here after not being able to make any new lows and building a lot of support. Per the market internals, you can also see the top holdings here was starting to show peaks of advancement. So for both SPX and the NASDAQ NDX, we're looking at top holdings here, and predominantly for the most part of the day, they are in the advancement area. Now, it's not a massive amount, it's less than 5 unless it crosses this area here. But we're also seeing that bullishness somewhat neutral here on the entire New York Stock Exchange. And, that pretty much finishes up our Tuesday. So we get into Tuesday's time area here. And one thing I want you to look at, see if I can find it. Okay, so Tuesday. So Tuesday, right along with that price, volume, and VOLD and ADD price and volume of the New York market, you can see we had a breakout of previous day's high here from Tuesday across the entire composite. And then we finished in the inside range from previous day. So that's a good way to look at potential for a break one way or the other, and seeing as though we saw mostly bullish price and volume across the market. This bear tick here didn't make any new low on the day. That's a good setup potentially for some more bullishness in the following day, especially given that the top holdings themselves, the ones that are really pulling the market, supporting the market, are showing advancement. All right, so then we get into small caps though, because I've been watching them. And if we go look at them on Tuesday, Okay, Tuesday, what do we see? We see a previous day low test, break up towards the high, reject, but we stay inside. So to me, this is showing once again that the Russell is the one really making up a large part of the New York Stock Exchange and kind of what it's doing. It's also holding the first standard deviation on the month. Now, this is November, so we're getting towards the end of the month, but it's still a really good important thing to look at. Now we head into Wednesday. We have a decent gap up. This gap here was it $3? No, it was about two, not quite $2.50. Massive tick, extreme closure. We do break back down here below, testing the high. See from Tuesday here. We can look at the price and the volume here on the New York Stock Exchange. Yet again, we get another strong bull close, strong bear close here on tick. Meanwhile, though, they're keeping the high of that first standard deviation range from Tuesday, breaking back over the range here, previous day high range here, and ultimately, though, failing to really reclaim and do another breakout. See, we're staying below TWAP the whole day. Again, though, the price and volume green throughout the whole day, bullish. So they were able to make a new low on the day. Okay, so that's very interesting. You also look at the top holdings, they're all bearish. So a lot of zigzag, a lot of squeeze. And again, we'll look at the RUSS here. So RUSS showing exactly the same movement. So to me, that's showing that the indexes, at least for the moment, are aligned. And looking at Wednesday's setup here on the composite, same thing, although I'll say is a slightly broader range here. So a lot more zigzag, a lot broader range versus the SPY really petered out here, hitting the previous day high. Okay, that brings us over to Thursday. Thursday, we're looking at top holdings. What are they doing? They're slammed down, but we're seeing the volume and price of the market mostly flat. Once we have this dump off here that doesn't really follow through on SPY itself, we're basically flat. This is the midpoint here where things could start to turn bear, and you see we didn't cross it the whole time. And we did have some TWAP break and retest entries on the downside. We're below previous TWAP's first standard deviation range, but it's a real wide range. Everything's real tight and constricted. You can see trend is showing a potential balance here. So there's not much here. So top holdings of SPX and NDX are bearish. They're all in decline, yet SPY is not going anywhere. It's not breaking previous day's low. So not sure what that price line is. So price previous day low is, let's see here, that's not it either. Okay, it's right here. So this was previous day low. So we break it a couple times. Then we have this huge rip towards the end of the day. Takes us all the way back up to 456. Happens to also be TWAP from Wednesday here. Okay, so that's Thursday, right? Again, look at all the different bear tick points we've got here, here, here. We also got one here. Starts to make a higher low. We also see that from about 130 on, price and volume in the New York market started to pick up. So Thursday was very interesting. One big thing here, looking at Thursday, so we get this squeeze, top holdings doing their thing, all bear, all in decline, but SPY is staying at relatively the same price. Then we get this nasty bit of bear tick here. It's the lowest tick that we've seen for the most part for the whole day, right as we reclaim TWAP, and then we have this big old squeeze. Unsurprisingly, it basically ticked previous TWAP right at the end of the day off of that. Really incredible. It even inverted the price and volume trend overall. So, pretty crazy setup there. Okay, so that heads in today. We've got JPOW today. We get top holdings, bear, but on the advancement if you consider yesterday and the day before. So you can almost kind of see the arc shape here, right? As Some are pushing harder here, pushing really hard down here and decline, and then start to curl back up. So looking at this, right, we come into potential bullish volume, potential bullish price. You can see we started in the bear zone. We have this little cross up here right as we're testing previous TWAP, first standard deviation high range here. And we really just struggle with this gap most of the morning. About an hour, 30 minutes, we had JPOW come out. And one thing I noticed was we had, little pockets of bear tick here, here, and here, but we weren't making any new lows. We weren't breaking this range from prior days TWAP data, and I'm watching the decline of the top holdings start to give way, and if nothing else, it head to more of just a neutral status. Meanwhile, I'm seeing nothing but, crap ton of bull tick breaks. Now, we're not really making a lot of higher highs here, but we're cramming up against a previous day high. Here's what's fascinating to me about today. So Qs were pretty weak today for quite some time, but look at the Dow. So Dow's ripping. RUSS, that's been tight all day. RUSS was the one that really gave me the signal for bullishness. I mean, they wasted absolutely no time. Basically, a consistent trend up all the way until 1 p.m. Eastern time. We did have a very weak mercy squeeze signal here. We didn't really come back. We slamming this monthly TWAP level here, 180, 184 effectively. Bounced off a TWAP 2 times here. Just an immense trend, immense. And actually, Russ had an insane day from low to high. I think $7. That is an immense day for small caps. From what I've been seeing, we've been covering Russ on this channel for quite a while now. $6 if you go from the open. Just an incredible range. So keeping that in mind, that you look at SPYs mostly flat. Dow was, definitely choppy, kind of like SPY was. Qs was really having a hard time. They were actually under their gap, and by 1 p.m. we didn't even break previous day high on Qs today. So tech wasn't really feeling this. We'll look at some individual names too, but so SPY's in a much better position as far as I'm concerned. We're holding the gap range. We broke previous day high, and we made pretty good progress. So the big trade today, looking at this, right? We got bear volume, bear price to open up. We had a gap down, reclaim 0 point on the ratios, okay, for price and volume and the New York Stock Exchange. That's great. We quickly head over 20% advancement. All right, that's SPY's not even over previous day high yet. Right about here is where we break 50% advancement. That's huge. That's huge for the market. Tons of bull tick, just screaming. The bear tick couldn't make new lows. Then we get, this is one of my new indicators I'm making. It's just a visual aid. This is the TWAP break and retest pattern. So I've been talking about this all the time on this channel. So there's the in pattern. That's all it monitors for. And it just puts a little rocket emoji as soon as it finds the BNR. And the little green wafer here, the circle, is just it checks and waits for full alignment between the trends of AD and VOLD, which if you're using this, you already know it's bullish trend. But it fires away, right? So then I try to target about 2 SDs. So TWAP is my SL, which is right here. Okay. This was the trade of the day. Now, I did not hold through all of this because JPOW was out. So I scalped a lot of, I took some pretty nice profits, but I scalped the rest of this because Also, past 2 SDs is typically just not happening all the time. So your first SD trim would be right there. So that's one standard deviation captured. And then I like to look for 2 SDs. So that would be your second SD right there. Okay, and I'm going off of the line I entered. So this is actually a 50%. So a whole true SD is from here to here, but since we started here on the trade entry, I'm going from here to here, and then I'll skip these major lines and go to the min lines, these 50% lines each time. So we actually had achieved 3 SD trim off of this trade all the way up here. And I find that these trades typically last anywhere from 50 minutes. Sadly, some of them last much longer than that. But this one was fantastic. I mean, just a crap ton of momentum. The first trim was only 18 minutes away, and it was a little bit choppy here. I don't know what that is, but a little bit choppy. But we've got our SL down here. Actually, I think I misspoke. The SL is up here. Okay. But yeah, so this 18 minutes. Our SL is right down here. No big deal. We're risking 64 cents to potentially make, what is it, $1.47. So that's a little over a 2 risk reward trade. So first trim 18 minutes away, 72 cents. And in 28 minutes, just 10 minutes after the first trim, you could have hit a $1.47. And then I like to manage it if it's not some crazy day-to-day JPOW day. I like to manage it as that if we break a range level, I don't like to break back down in the case of a long the range level below. So see, they wicked it here. We break up this one. Great. That's close enough. You could take another trim here. It's not a whole SD at that point, but we've already hit our main profit target. So anything past this is gravy as far as I'm concerned. So take a trim. We're close enough here. We do test this again. We're also bringing the bands up. That's the other thing I like to see is if I'm in a trade based off of TWAP, I love to see the TWAP line continually coming up almost every bar that transpires from my entry. I don't like a flat TWAP because that means there's no tick energy in the market. There's no momentum. None of the stocks are really moving. So there's no wind in my sails, as you've probably heard me say if you've listened to a lot of my videos. We want to trade with the New York Stock Exchange. We want SPY to be in agreement with the New York market. We want SPY to feel the energy, the momentum of the market. And if that's not happening, this trade's probably not going to amount to a whole lot. So today was a perfect example of exactly what we want to see. And then all this data that I curate and present through my indicators I've published give you essentially everything you need to build a trade plan, assuming this is the kind of trade you like. Some people don't like this. They like to get in and get out, and that's fantastic. Whatever works for you, this is what works for me. But anyway, so we held again. We've got the upper band holding right below here. Great. Maybe you missed this trim here. Now you're definitely getting a trim here. We break out above this range level, so this is our new SL, right? We just kind of snake it up. We test it, hold above, boom, look, we get $2.20. It's a longer trade. It's an hour and a half, but you're gaining a ton right from your entry. Best part is if you're still trailing your stop loss just with the TWAP itself is now in your original profit area. So this would be considered, a risk-free trade. Got my air quotes, can't see them, but this with contracts, right, is not necessarily a risk-free trade. An hour and a half can definitely eat away at 0-day contracts. Even if they're in the money, even a couple strikes in the money, there's still a decent amount of theta. So you would have to manage it accordingly. And that's why once we get 2 SDs, I like just moving my stop losses through these levels as I just described. Of course, that does mean that sometimes the market comes back through, tests one a little further than I would like before it moves much higher. I know one day, like 2 weeks ago, I think, we had like a 6 SD move, and I got stopped out moving my stops under these levels. It happens, you're just not going to catch the whole move every time, or maybe ever. But anyway, so we got 3 SDs out of this. It was fantastic setup, and then we get a little bit of cooling off. But once you have such a move, you're going to find that eventually the market will stop. Might not come back down a whole lot, but it's not going to make much of a new high past whatever peak it had. And that's what I noticed. We had about a $1.50 range for for the rest of the day after that high was made. So yeah, 3 hours of of really tight range. I mean, actually, if you wanted to be fair, there's the high from the peak, and so that was an 85 cent range, we'll call it. So that would be pretty painful to try to scalp at that point. But looking at a couple things here, so every time we hit one of these SDs, you're seeing the tick is really just is just going to town every single time. Even this 3SD one, we are starting. You can start to see we're starting to have less and less bull tick. It's not nearly as clustered like some of these, but we do get a peak. We start to see tick average closures coming up. I mean, overall, just an all-around beautiful trade, and definitely seeing the top holdings shrink more into complete balance. It was interesting. Qs being the weaker one as far as I was concerned, not able to break out a previous day high. They were still showing like zero decline, zero advancement. So the top holdings at NDX were essentially all inside bar at this point. Well, I guess because they're not above close, and they're not really below close. So this one here is basically there's two, right, that are in decline in the end compared to all the advancements. So versus the SPX was still by this point was at -4. So you could say that there was something other than the top holdings that was really bringing up the rear. And I'm going to look around. I don't have it prepared for the video, but I've looked around at a couple of names, and honestly, I've been pretty surprised. So like Microsoft today, they definitely failed to hold. So they closed up here 378, 379, and I mean at one point hit 371. They weren't feeling it today. Nvidia, I think was another one that wasn't really feeling it today. Yep. So here's another one. They're closer to previous day low. They closed under previous day's close from Thursday. Meta was weak too. Yep, Meta was another weak one. So overall, pretty interesting that it wasn't really the big guys pushing up everything today. So I'm gonna go take a peek and see just what was going on. But yeah, as far as the advancement, so we finished the day with almost 2,000 stocks in advancement and an immense 6.2 to 1 ratio for volume. That's pretty immense, right? So if we pull this back up, I mean we're almost 75% volume in advancing stocks. VIX is still at the lows, the 12.6, really low. Puts versus calls were at 0.72, incredibly bullish overall. And this was on a balanced day. It trends at 0.9, so it's not really where we want to see it for a trending day, and yet we had one. So I think a lot of that just has to do with that classic trend skew. Sadly, can't always rely on it. But I wouldn't say this was like a strong trending day on SPY. We had a lot of chop in the morning. We took a long time to finally get to actually having what I would consider, a decent move. I mean, if you caught from the low here to the high, that is $4. But if you caught it from like the high breakout, a previous day high, you're looking at something more like not even 3. So anyways, looking at SPY here, so we see a lot of RSI strength. Growth is back up on the uptrend again after having that small pullback on Wednesday. And definitely over the average. We're at 90 mil volume. Finance saw a lot of volume. And energy is definitely coming up from that low we had on the RSI early November. And as far as the price here, so we're sticking this wick at 460 right on this candle, and we've got a couple other ones to contend with way back over here, March 22. So pretty interesting price there. And then, I guess we've probably got that wick we can mess with there, almost 473, and then we got the big one, almost 480. Was the high actually 480? No, 479.98. That was back on January 2022. Wow, insane. So that's what we got coming up. I'm not gonna say that I'm waiting for a pullback here. I think that would be ignorant to load up a bunch of things, but we just got the last bit of the year here. It's December officially after today, but when you get this tight clustering and then this big candle here, that's usually a signal a lot of people wait for before they load up. So retail's looking strong. A lot of the finance sector is looking really strong. I think it was a firm that they went mental recently because of sadly, because of a high amount of usage of pay-as-you-go from the Black Friday non-sales. So there's just a ton of bullishness in this market, even way up here, as you can see. So 10 SMA has been drug all the way up. 20 SMAs close in the rear here. Not really dragging the 100, the 50, or the 200 up yet. So, seeing those curl, I don't know. Seeing the 10 right under here is comforting. Just for me, I start, using that as kind of my SL. If we start bringing back below here, then I'd start to get nervous that we're going to pull back even further. So the fact that we're holding this for now, that's good. We had the same thing over here though. We broke back above it here a couple times back here. So a lot of riding it here. So I don't know. I'm gonna just guess on more upside, simply because everything else just continues to look hot. Qs, I'm sure on the daily look insane. Yeah, see, they already broke some relative highs, and was that all-time highs? No. Okay. Yeah, so we've got this one that's the same. So we've got 404, 404 and 408 to contend with. I don't know what that is. So looking at that, gosh, Qs is really struggling here at the 10 SMA. See, this is what I wouldn't want SPY to be doing. So SPY basically held the bullish breakout, versus Qs tried to break out with a huge gap and came right back down, and now they're struggling. So we had to close under or at 10 SMA, and now we got to close back over, but not quite as high as that open price there on Thursday. So like I said, Qs wasn't really feeling it. Didn't break out the previous day high. We looked at some of the names, and they're not really showing the strength. I know Apple was doing decent. I've got swing on them. put spreads, and that they're doing okay. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. Massive breakout on small caps. Tech not quite feeling it. Energy coming up. Finance coming up. Like like I said, a firm. Yeah, this is insane. A firm's nuts. That's going to pretty much wrap it up here, folks. I hope you had a great trading week. Hope you had, or hope you have a good weekend planned. And as always, thanks for watching and happy.